Hi, this is Amber from the A team. We're going to spend some time talking about contacts. To get to contacts, you'll go up to your waffle menu and click on Contacts. Now that you're here, let's talk about the interface of your contacts so that you can get to know the screen. The first thing you'll see on the top left is Create Contact. We'll come back to this shortly. Underneath, you'll see a list of contacts. These contacts are ones that you communicate with directly or have manually added to your contacts list. Next, you'll see those you frequently contact. You don't build this list yourself. Google automatically builds this for you and puts those users that you frequently communicate with. The next element you'll see is the directory. This is really important. The directory is built by your domain. In this case, this is our hcpsnc.org domain, and every user that has an account with hcpsnc.org is automatically populated into the directory. This is where you will find every staff member and every student in the directory. Next, you'll see Merge and Fix. Merge and Fix is a place where duplicates are found. For example, here it has found two users who Google wonders if this is actually the same person. So you'll see the name here and the name here, and it's asking, is this the same person? If so, we can merge this into one contact. If this is the same person, you can click Merge. If it's not, you can dismiss it. Underneath that, you will see a line, and beneath that, you will see labels. And we'll come back and talk about these. But this is very similar to what we learned in Gmail. In Gmail, remember, labels were sort of like folders, but in labels, you can put more than one label to one thing. That's exactly how this works with contacts. You can sort your users into different labels, and you can put one user in different labels. And we'll come back and look at those in a moment, but that is what those are. Underneath the next line, you will see import, export, and print. This is when you want to import contacts from another source into your Google account or export your contacts to use in another system. There's also print and trash. We won't focus on these in this basics training. We're going to mostly focus here in the very top section and in labels. So let's go back to contacts so that we can take a look over at the top of our window. Just like an email, you have a search box. This search box is designed to search any person who's in your contacts, frequently contacted directory, or any of your labels. You can simply start typing a person's name, and then it will search for people that have that name. You can clear your search by clicking the X to clear your search. There's also the question mark, which is your help menu, so you can send feedback, suggestions, or get help. Next to that, you will see the settings menu. There's really not anything in the settings menu that we're going to discuss in this training, but your settings menu is at the top. So we've gone through all of the different sections. So now let's start focusing on how you can make contacts work for you. Again, in the directory, you have all your Henderson County users automatically synced, but there may be a time that you need to create a contact for an outside user. This could be a parent of a student. This could be a vendor with whom you communicate. It could just be a peer in another district, but basically anyone who is not in Henderson County, you're going to need to create that contact. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Create Contact, and you'll notice you have two options. If you're just going to be adding one contact, you can create a contact. However, if you plan on entering multiple contacts at this one sitting, you can also do that. But I'm just going to add one contact to show you what that looks like. And you get the Create a Contact window. So you'll notice that it separates first and last name. So I'm going to put sample contact. This is going to be first name sample, last name contact. If the person is associated with a company or with a school district or a business, you can put the name of that here, and that will kind of be another search term that you can use. You also can put in a job title, and that can be helpful if you're wanting to use that to filter through your searches. So my sample contact is going to be John's father. So that will help me if I'm entering a parent to know whose parent this is. Then I'm going to have to put an email address or phone number so that there is at least one way in which to contact this person. So I'm going to put scontact@noemail.com since this is actually not a real user. We're going to talk about labels a little later, so for now I'm going to leave that alone. If there's a phone number, you can choose a country if that person's in a different country so that it has the right prefix on the phone number, but you can type in the phone number if you want or copy and paste it. And there's also a great place that you can put notes. In this case, maybe this is a parent who is outside the home. This is, a parent that the student does not live with, but it's also a parent that I need to communicate with. I can put some notes in there as well. You'll notice show more, and I do want to show you this because there could be reasons that you need to actually put in more detail for a contact. So I'm going to click on show more, and you'll notice that now in the name part I have a lot of different things. So my prefix, I can put that prefix in if I need to, middle name, suffix. There's also some places to put phonetic spellings, and this is really only helpful if you are using a smartphone and you want to speak that person's name so that it knows how to pronounce the name. There's also a place to put nickname, which can be helpful if there are different names that that person is known by. There's also some places where you can put department in addition to company. So if they're in a particular department, you can put that as well. Again, we have the phone number, but here's where you can also put in address information. This particular case, you're getting, this is a parent, and you're getting that information from PowerSchool or your student information system. But if you needed to put in the address information, you can do that as well. There's also a place to put birthdays. There's also, if there's a particular event associated with this person, you can put that here. There's also website, and there's also a place to put relationship. You'll notice at the very top I put John's father as a note. I could also use this relationship field now. There's also, you can make custom fields and put in other notes, but I did want to show you can put as much detail as you need, but you do need at least a first and last name and either an email or a phone number in order to put them in your contacts and have them have meaning. In this case, we're using this for emailing, so you do need to have that email address. So once you've added all your information, you can click Save, and again, this person is named Sample Contact, and as soon as you click Save, you're going to get something called a contact card, and so it's going to show me this is John's father and this is that person's email address. And you'll notice if you don't have an image for a person, it's going to show the first initial of that person, the first initial of their first name. You can hover and select a contact photo. If you need to do that, you can put a photo in for someone. You'll notice, however, if someone is in your directory, they are going to have the picture that they put in as the image, but if you needed a different picture, you could put that as well. Once you have your contact card, you do have a More Actions button. So there are some things that you can do: export that contact, hide the contact, delete the contact, or print that contact. You also have the pencil so that you can go back and do editing if you needed to. But that's how you make a contact card. So anytime you want to add someone into your contacts, you're going to click that Create Contact button. You'll notice that I now have 56 contacts. That tells me how many contacts I have that I've manually added, or those with whom I frequently contact will start to appear in my contacts. But I'm definitely not going to go add the 15,000 people that are in my directory to contacts. So these are going to be people that you are directly communicating with. So that is how to add a contact to your contact list. So what I'd like to show you now is when I go to my contacts, there may be a person that I contact a lot. And even though you have frequently contacted, you can actually use stars. And that's something that we talked about in Gmail. But you can also do this in your contacts. So you'll notice if I have Angie here and I hover over her, I actually get the option to add a star. So look what happens when I click star. She's actually going to go to the very top of my contact list, and now I have starred contacts. So she's going to be someone that appears at the top. Now, it did not take her away from my regular contacts list, but it did put her at the top. So if you have those contacts that you communicate with a lot and you need them starred, those can go on the top. So now let's talk about labels. Labels are ways that you can create a mail list. So from this point forward, when I talk about labels and mail lists, those are going to be used interchangeably. So it's helpful when you go to write an email to a group of people if the group stays pretty consistent, like parents of my students. I would like to make a mail list, so I only type in the name of that mail list and all of the email comes in with them. So let's look at how to make this work. So first of all, I'm going to need to create a label so that I can associate those contacts to that label. So along the left-hand side, under Labels, you'll see Create Label. When you click on Create Label, this is where you're going to go and title that mail list. So for this one, I'm going to put Parents 21, 22. So these are going to be the parents of my students during the year 21, 22. And then I'm going to click Save. So what that means is when I go to write an email, when I type in parents 2122, all those emails are going to populate. But if I click on that label right now, there are no people in it. So after you make the label, you then have to go associate users to that label. And I'm going to show you two ways to do this. The first way to do it is to go into your contacts list. So if you've added in those parent emails and you've clicked on Create Contact and you've made a contact label for each of the parent emails, then what you can do is then go through your list and find those parent emails. So if I go through the list to look for emails, I know that contact name is one of my parents. Here's another, and I can go and simply click on the people that I want to add to this list. Now you'll notice as I'm selecting them, up at the top, it tells me how many users I have selected. And all of a sudden, I'm getting some other tools at the top. So first of all, I can see merge. And if I clicked merge right now, all of these different people will become one. Well, that's definitely not what I want to do. There is the option to just send an email to every person that I have checked. Well, I really don't want to do that either because the next time I'm going to have to check all these boxes again. So what I'd really like to do is add them to a label. So I'm going to click on Manage Labels. You'll see this brings up all the lists of my current labels. And here's that label that I made for parents 21, 22. And I would like for these 5 selected people to be a part of this mail list or this label. So I'm going to click on that and click Apply. Now what you'll notice, and I'm going to go ahead and click off of this and deselect them so that you'll see how this works. Now that I have those people in the list, I can actually go to my parents 21, 22, and I see now there's a number next to it. It tells me there's 5. So those are the 5 people that I checked in that list, and then I added them to the label. So that's one way that you can add people to your label. So let's look at a different way. So the second way to add a person to a label, you can go back to your contacts list and find that search bar at the top, and you can search for your person. So I know that I have a person whose last name is Parent that I need to add to this list. So I know that John Parent needs to go on the list. So I can click on this user. And notice it brings up that contact card that we've seen before. And I can go to the three dots and add them to the list from here. So parents 21, 22. And what you're seeing here after I click off of this is you now see that tag or that label actually put there, and you also see it's been added at the bottom. So now when I close that person, my number for parents 21, 22 has now gone up to 6. And if I go there, there's that John Parent that I just added. So again, I can go to the search, type in the person's name. So I also want to add that parent to the list. I can go here, add them to the 21-22 list. And what you'll notice here is this person is actually already in another label. And that's great because I can add people to multiple labels, which is what we've talked about, the difference between labels and folders. But let's say that I really don't need them in that list anymore. So I can actually deselect that list, and it's only going to keep them on this list. But you can choose multiple labels for every person in your contacts. So I'm going to close that. You'll notice that switches to parents 21, 22, and now I'm going to click close. And so that puts those people that are in that group, now it's got 7 parents in the group. So you can keep adding people to those labels as often as you need. Now, I do want to mention that you can go into the label. If you wanted to change the name, you can always click on the pencil next to the label and change the name of it. You can also delete the label if you would like. Once you open a person who is in your label, you will see that little label badge that's at the top. So you'll be able to see how many lists a person is in by going to them. Also in your contacts list, if you would like to see if they're in any labels, you can actually turn on your list. You can change the column order or your display density so that you can see more. So right now you notice it's uncomfortable. I could change it to compact so that I can see more users at a time. I also have my percentage pretty high right now for viewing. So if I actually move this down, one of the things I want you to see is that I can actually see what labels a person is in by seeing the labels column in the contacts column. So I did want you to see there's a quick way that you can kind of scroll down and see if people are on a particular list. But I'm going to move this back up so that we have a larger view. So that is how to deal with labels. So now let's talk about what you would do with that label. So in order to do that, I'm actually going to take us to Gmail so that you see how this works. And you know that my list was called Parents 2122. So if I go into compose an email and I start typing the name of my list, you will notice that that actually comes up as options for me to choose. And so I can choose, oh yes, that's my list, parents 2122. And when I click on that, you'll see that it puts in every person's name that's on that list. So at this point, if I want this to go to everybody except for great, I can actually remove them before I hit send. But I do want to just take a moment to talk about some etiquette right here for just a moment, particularly when you're talking about sending to people outside of Henderson County Public Schools. It is really best practice to not put parents in the to line of an email because it's really not good to share their emails with other parents unless they've given you permission. So what I'm going to do here is I'm like, oh, I realize I should have BCC'd everyone so that it sends them to every person, but they can't see each other's email. Now, I could sit here and close all of these and type it back in, but I do just want to show you that you can actually drag and drop these and notice how it kind of turns them gray. That's because they're going in that BCC line. And so now they're going to all get an email, but they won't see each other's email address. So that's how you use that list. Again, you just start typing it, it appears, and then you can actually remove people if you didn't need them to be, or you can actually add someone else if you needed to add them to that so that you'll see that they've been added. The orange indicates that they were in that mail list, and then I've added an additional person. So that's how you use labels to make sending email much more efficient for you.